Imagine inheriting a dark family secret. Your mother was convicted of murder. Now imagine her final letter insists she was innocent. What would you do?
It's quite a scenario.
It really is. Our listener, Carla Lemarchant, faced this exact dilemma. She felt compelled, really, to uncover the truth of a crime committed 16 years ago, something that just cast this long shadow over her life.
And today, we're taking that deep dive into the sources Carla shared with us. We're going to try and peel back these layers of memory, bias, hidden motives, try to solve a mystery that honestly stumped experts for years.
Yeah, and forget dusty evidence bags, right? Our method here is more psychological.
Exactly. Much like the legendary detective Hercule Poirot's approach, it relies on, human observation, those subtle shifts in perspective, not footprints, but what's going on inside people's heads.
That initial letter from Carla's mother.
Wow.
Such a powerful hook. So what exactly is the core mystery Carla's trying to unravel here?
Well, the central mystery is this. Amyas Creole, a renowned artist, was poisoned. His wife, Caroline Creole, who is Carla's mother, was convicted for his murder.
But was justice really served? That's the question.
That's the huge question. Carla desperately needed to know, not just for herself, but for her future. And Poirot, with his famous little gray cells, his unique way of looking at things.
This psychological deduction, yeah.
Right. Sifting through all those, seemingly tiny human behaviors, the inconsistencies. He sought the answers not in the physical clues, but deep within the minds of the people who are actually there.
Okay, so let's unpack Carla's quest first. Who is she, this woman showing up 16 years later?
Right. Carla Lemarchant. She's a vibrant 21-year-old woman, but when she was just 5, she was suddenly, whisked away to Canada, raised under a completely new name.
Sheltered from her past.
Totally sheltered.
Oh.
The truth didn't even surface until her 21st birthday. That's when she came into her inheritance and received her mother's final letter, the one asserting her innocence.
And her motivation. It sounds incredibly profound. What are the personal stakes driving her to dig all this up?
Oh, they're huge. Her motivation is deeply personal. Carla's engaged, she wants children, and she has this terrible fear of passing on some kind of taint of violence or evil to her future family.
Wow.
Yeah. She needs absolute, undeniable proof of her mother's innocence to build a future free from that fear. She actually told Poirot quite directly, and it really sticks with you, I want to marry John, and I mean to marry John, and I want to have at least 2 girls and 2 boys, and you're going to make that possible.
That is a massive ask, putting that kind of pressure on an investigator. How does Poirot even respond?
Well, what's fascinating here is Poirot's response. He agrees to investigate, yes, but with a really crucial condition. He will find the truth, whether that confirms her mother's innocence or her guilt.
No guarantees either way.
No guarantees. He doesn't go unbiased. He simply states that his little gray cells, as he calls them, are uniquely suited for this fantastic task, basically, going back 16 years in time through memory alone.
Okay, so if that's Carla's quest, what did the world believe happened back then? What was the official narrative of Amyas Creole's death?
Right, the official narrative. It seemed pretty clear-cut at the time. Amyas Creole, famous painter, poisoned by quinine. That's spotted hemlock.
Nasty stuff.
Very. And the prosecution's case, led by this top lawyer, Quentin Fogg, Casey King's counsel, it seemed, well, damning indeed, as the source says.
What made it so damning?
They argued Caroline Creole had a clear motive. She and Amyas apparently led a real cat-and-dog life for years. He had numerous affairs. But this final one, this entanglement with the young Elsa Greer, it was serious. Different.
And there was a threat?
Yes, Caroline was overheard by 2 different people threatening Amyas, saying she'd kill him rather than let him go to Elsa. Pretty explicit.
Okay, motive and threats. What about the actual evidence? Did it point squarely at her?
It seemed to. Caroline actually admitted taking the quinine. Meredith Blake, this amateur chemist neighbor, had apparently been talking about it the day before, how he extracted it.
So she admitted taking it.
Yes, but she claimed she took it for suicide. For herself. But then she couldn't explain why the bottle was found empty in her room later, or why only her fingerprints were on it.
That does sound bad.
It really does. And the prosecution, they painted Amyas as this, quote, ruthless, selfish, good-tempered, happy egoist. Basically not the type of man prone to suicide at all.
So they ruled that out pretty quick.
They did. Fogg, the prosecutor, apparently made mincemeat of Caroline in court. The jury found her guilty, though with a recommendation to mercy, which meant life imprisonment instead of hanging.
How effective was the defense then? Did they put up much of a fight against this seemingly ironclad case?
Well, the defense, led by Sir Montague de Preach, they struggled. They tried to push the suicide angle, but it just wasn't convincing, not to the jury, and maybe not even to Sir Montague himself. He later admitted, oh yes, she did it all right.
So even her own lawyer thought she did it.
Seems so. He felt there was provocation, given Amyas's behavior, which might explain the mercy recommendation. But Caroline's own attitude didn't help. Her lack of cooperation, her refusal to really put up a fight during the trial, it hurt her case badly.
And the police investigation at the time, did they have any lingering doubts? Any other leads?
Not a shred of doubt, apparently. Ex-Superintendent Hale stated he had no doubt at all of Caroline's guilt. He said every single fact that we uncovered supported that view.
And he laid out the timeline.
He did. Amyas found dead in the Battery Garden. Caroline brought him iced beer around 11:15 a.m. He drank it, grimaced, said something like, "Everything tastes foul today." Later complained of stiffness, paralysis setting in. Then the empty Conane bottle, just her prints, found in her room.
It all seems to fit together so neatly.
Too neatly, perhaps. Hale was so convinced, he even suggested Poirot just, fabricate a suicide story for Carla's peace of mind. That tells you how straightforward he thought it was.
Wow. Okay, so with the physical evidence long gone, maybe degraded, how does Poirot even begin to approach this cold case? He can't rely on the usual stuff.
Exactly. He knows after 16 years, physical evidence is pretty much irrelevant. So his method is entirely different. He goes back to the source, the human mind, the memories of those involved.
The witness?
The 5 key witnesses who were actually at Alderbury, the Krells' home, that day. Philip Blake, Meredith Blake, Elsa Greer, Cecilia Williams, and Angela Warren.
And what does he ask them to do?
He asks each one to write their own accounts of what happened. His theory was that time and your memory are responsible for that selection. He believed their narratives, written so long after, would reveal certain facts which had been deliberately withheld from the police at the time. He called it his excursion into the past.
Fascinating approach, just relying on memory and perspective. And he used a little nursery rhyme to keep track, right? This little pig went to market.
He did, yes. A way to frame each perspective.
Okay, let's dive into those perspectives. The first little pig, Philip Blake. This little pig went to market. What did his story reveal?
Philip Blake. He's presented as a prosperous, shrewd stockbroker. Outwardly seems jovial, contented. But underneath, Poirot sensed something else. Philip's view of Caroline is incredibly harsh. He calls her a rotter, a cold, calculating planner with a wicked temper.
Strong words. Does he offer any justification for that?
He recounts this chilling story from their childhood. Caroline apparently threw a heavy paperweight, he calls it a crowbar, which is an exaggeration itself, at her baby half-sister Angela out of jealousy. And it permanently injured Angela, left a scar.
Okay, that's intense. But you mentioned bias earlier. What was really driving Philip's intense animosity towards Caroline?
Well, here's the twist. His bias becomes crystal clear. Philip, it turns out, was secretly in love with Caroline for years. Yeah. Her rejection of him, especially after Amyas's death, combined with his belief that she'd murdered Amyas, who he called his best friend, it all festered into this profound hatred for her. His entire narrative is just drenched in this personal grievance. It completely twists his memory of events. He was certain. I knew at once it must be Caroline.
Right, so his account is immediately suspect because of that hidden emotion. Okay, from Philip's bitterness, we move to his elder brother, Meredith Blake. This little pig stayed at home. A very different character.
Very different. Meredith is described as a gentle, rather vague country squire type. He's an amateur herbalist, potters around his lab, and crucially, he's the one who had the Conane poison in his lab in the first place. He feels immense guilt, blaming himself for its role in the tragedy.
What does he reveal about Amyas and the situation at Alderbury?
Meredith gives insight into Amyas's almost unbalanced obsession with his art. He remembers Amyas dismissing everyone's concerns about the tension between Caroline and Elsa. Amyas basically said Caroline must lump it and Elsa must lump it too. Because his current painting of Elsa, incidentally, was the best thing I've done. Art above all else.
And Meredith saw Caroline near the poison.
Yes. He described Caroline leaving his lab looking flushed, with pink cheeks and excited eyes, right after he noticed the Conane was missing. But later, he convinced himself a cat must have knocked over or something because he smelled valerian in the lab. Valerian's like catnip, right? Cat stuff.
Yeah, that's an interesting detail, the valerian. So Meredith initially thought Caroline took it, but then rationalized it away. Did his view change?
It did, remarkably. After speaking with Poirot much later, Meredith actually reconsiders everything. He starts thinking maybe Amias did commit suicide, maybe driven by some core of conscience. He points to Caroline's own steadfast belief in Amias's suicide as maybe influencing him. He even wonders if Caroline took the quinine for her own suicide attempt and then tragically felt responsible when Amias died.
It shows how malleable memory can be, even his own. Okay, next perspective. Elsa Greer, who became Lady Didisham. This little pig ate roast beef. A very different energy, I imagine.
Oh, completely. She was described back then as this vibrant, almost predatory Juliet. Young, beautiful, determined. But 16 years later, she's wealthy, still beautiful, but hollowed out. She tells Poirot nothing interests her. She even says, flat out, Elsa Greer is dead.
Wow. What's her take on the murder? Did she take any responsibility for the affair?
She fully admits she was responsible for seducing Amias. She describes herself as having a single-track mind, believing fiercely in take what you want and pay for it. No apologies there.
And her feelings towards Caroline?
Pure hatred. Utterly venomous. She vehemently believes Caroline killed Amias purely out of spite, out of vindictiveness. She says, she killed him so that I shouldn't have him. She wished Caroline had been hanged.
Did Poirot manage to get beneath that surface hatred at all?
He tried. He showed her this passionate love letter Amias had written to her back then. And for just a fleeting moment, you see a flicker of that young, ardent Elsa come back. But it vanishes quickly. Her final summation is just tragic and, frankly, chilling. I died, she says, when Amias died.
So much unresolved pain there. Okay, moving on. Miss Cecilia Williams, the governess. This little pig had none. Strict old-fashioned.
Yeah.
What did her account add?
Miss Williams. She's living frugally now, still quite stern, a staunch feminist for her time, actually. Believed men have the best of this world. She thought Amias deserved what he got and dismissed his famous art as just ludicrous daubs.
So not a fan of Amias. Was she loyal to Caroline?
Fiercely loyal, entirely on Mrs. Crail's side, she says. But here's a crucial part. Despite that loyalty, she tells Poirot she knew Caroline was guilty at the time, and yet she withheld information from the police.
Withheld information? What was it?
This is the absolute bombshell. She witnessed Amias drink a beer, not necessarily the one Caroline brought later, grimace, and say, everything tastes foul today. And she confirms this happened before Caroline went back up to the house to fetch the freshly iced beer that she was accused of poisoning.
Wait, so he tasted something foul before Caroline brought him the drink she was convicted for poisoning?
Precisely. Before that specific iced beer arrived. That observation is the first major crack in the official story's timeline. It's huge.
Absolutely huge. Okay, that leaves one more witness, Angela Warren, Caroline's half-sister. This little pig cried, wee, wee, wee. What's her story?
Angela is now a very impressive figure. Distinguished, strong, highly analytical. She actually believes her childhood disfigurement, the scar from Caroline throwing the paperweight, ultimately fortified her character, made her stronger.
That's quite a perspective. What does she say about Caroline's personality, her state of mind?
Angela explains that Caroline's childhood outburst, that maniacal fit of rage, led to a lifelong, deep-seated abhorrence of any further act of the same kind. She says Caroline used extravagance of language, making dramatic threats like, I shall murder you, as a kind of emotional outlet, a way to avoid actual violence.
So the threats were just talk?
According to Angela, yes, a safety valve. And Caroline felt this immense guilt, this need to constantly pay her debts to Angela because of that childhood injury.
And Caroline's final letter to Angela, you mentioned it earlier. What was so significant about it?
Right. Poirot reads it aloud, and there's absolutely no protestation of innocence in it. None. Instead, it talks about achieving peace, about paying one's debts. Caroline writes, it's all right, darling, it's all right. For Poirot, this absence of an innocence plea is incredibly telling.
And Angela reveals something else too, doesn't she? About that morning.
Yes, she admits to a little prank she planned that morning. She was going to put valerian, that cat stuff from Meredith's lab, into Amias's beer as a joke, but she got interrupted by Caroline and never actually did it.
Ah, so that's why Meredith smelled valerian.
Exactly. It explains Meredith's whole cat theory and confirms Angela wasn't involved in the actual poisoning. Angela also offers her own theory, interestingly. She thinks Philip Blake is the most likely murderer, pointing to his limited imagination and that unexpected deep-seated animosity towards Caroline he showed later. She kind of foreshadows the solution.
Okay, so Poirot has gathered all these narratives, 5 different versions of the past. How does he start to piece together the actual truth from these conflicting accounts?
He looks for the inconsistencies, the things that feel psychologically incorrect, as he puts it, moments that just don't ring true based on the personalities involved.
Like what?
Well, for instance, why would Caroline, after this huge, violent argument where she supposedly threatened to kill Amyas, suddenly turn around and amicably offer to fetch him a nice cold beer? It just doesn't fit psychologically, does it?
No, it feels jarring.
And another small detail from Philip Blake's account. He mentions Amyas saying he'd see to her packing, meaning Angela's packing for school. But would Amyas Crail, the great artist obsessed with his work, really concern himself with packing a teenage girl's school trunk? That's usually a woman's task, isn't it? It's another little thing that feels off.
These small psychological points add up.
Hmm.
But the big one seems to be the timing.
The timing is absolutely everything. Miss Williams's observation that Amyas tasted something foul before Caroline brought him the specific iced beer from the house, that is the pivotal piece of evidence.
Because it proves.
It proves Caroline could not have administered the poison in that drink, the one she was convicted for. The poison must have been given to him earlier by someone else.
So if it wasn't Caroline and it wasn't suicide, Poirot then had to reevaluate Amyas's own intentions, right? What did he conclude about the relationship with Elsa?
Exactly. Poirot argues that Amyas actually never intended to leave Caroline. His infatuation with Elsa, however intense it seemed, was likely temporary, just like his other affairs. His primary, all-consuming focus was on finishing that painting, his masterpiece.
And he told Caroline this.
Yes. According to Poirot's reconstruction, on the very morning he died, Amyas had told Caroline he was not leaving her for Elsa. He told her Elsa would simply have to, well, lump it.
Okay, so if Amyas told Caroline he wasn't leaving, who else might have known? And what would that mean to them?
Now we get to the heart of it. Who had the motive and the opportunity? Poirot realizes Elsa Greer was sitting on the terrace just outside the library window when Amyas was having that conversation with Caroline inside.
So Elsa overheard him.
Elsa overheard Amyas telling Caroline he wasn't leaving her, that Elsa would just have to accept it. For Elsa, the predatory Juliet who believed in taking what she wanted, this was devastating. Her entire plan, her entire future as she saw it, just shattered in that moment.
And she knew about the poison.
Yes. Remember Meredith's account? Poirot deduces Elsa must have been looking into the lab over Meredith's shoulder earlier when he was distracted, and she saw Caroline take the quinine bottle.
So she knew Caroline had it. She overheard Amyas rejecting her.
Exactly. Fueled by this incredible rage, this sense of betrayal. Her hero wasn't hers. After all, Elsa takes action. She must have gotten hold of the quinine somehow, perhaps stealing it from Caroline's room, or maybe Caroline discarded it somewhere accessible and she gave it to Amyas herself.
Before Caroline came down with the ice beer.
Critically, yes.
Yeah.
Before Caroline brought that later drink. That way, Amyas is eliminated for rejecting her, and Caroline, who Elsa hates and who she knows handled the poison, gets framed perfectly for the murder.
That is cold. Chillingly calculated. And the painting. Amyas's final painting of Elsa. How does that fit in?
The painting becomes the ultimate unintentional confession. Poirot looks at it again with this new understanding and declares it's the picture of a murderess painted by her victim. It is the picture of a girl watching her lover die.
Wow.
He sees it in her expression, the arrogance, the triumphant anticipation, the insolent eyes. Amyas, in his artistic genius, captured the very essence of Elsa in that fatal moment, unknowingly painting his own killer as she watched him succumb to the poison she administered.
That's incredible, but then why did Caroline confess? Or rather, why didn't she fight harder? Why the acceptance?
That comes back to Angela and that lifelong debt Caroline felt she owed her. Caroline saw Angela near Amyas's beer earlier, intending to put the valerian in it. Caroline also knew she herself had taken the quinine earlier, planning her own suicide.
So she put two and two together incorrectly.
Exactly. In her distressed state, seeing Amyas die, knowing Angela had been fiddling with his drink, and knowing she herself had handled poison, she jumped to the wrong conclusion. She believed Angela must have accidentally poisoned Amyas while trying to pull that prank, perhaps confusing the poisons or something?
And the guilt over Angela's childhood injury kicked in.
Massively. That overwhelming guilt from the old debt compelled her to shield Angela at all costs. She decided to take the blame, embrace her fate. It gave her a strange, perverse kind of peace.
Which explains the final letter to Angela.
Precisely. The letter wasn't a protestation of innocence, it was a desperate reassurance to Angela. It's all right, darling, it's all right. A final payment of that lifelong debt, letting Angela believe she was safe even though Angela had done nothing wrong regarding the poison.
What a tragic misunderstanding layered on top of a murder.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the aftermath of Poirot revealing all this?
Well, Poirot vows to go to the authorities to seek a posthumous free pardon for Caroline Crail to clear her name finally.
And Elsa.
Elsa. Her fate is perhaps the most chilling. Her final words in the sources really hit home. She says, "I didn't understand that I was killing myself, not him. I died." That obsession, that act of murder, it ultimately destroyed her own life, her own capacity for feeling.
What this deep dive truly reveals, then, is how our deepest emotional currents, unrequited love like Philip's, burning ambition like Elsa's, or profound guilt like Caroline's, don't just influence our actions. They profoundly distort our memory of facts.
Absolutely. It's not just that people lie deliberately, it's that they genuinely remember a version of events shaped by their internal world, their biases, their desires. It makes finding any kind of objective truth incredibly difficult, especially after so many years.
It shows that the truth of a crime, or maybe any past event, isn't always in the physical evidence. Sometimes it's hidden entirely within that complex tapestry of human relationships, those hidden emotions, and the really subtle interplay of memory and bias.
Exactly right. Each person's perspective, filtered through their own unique lens, their loves, hates, regrets, shaped the facts of this case as they presented them. 5 witnesses, 5 different truths, almost.
So the takeaway for you, listening to this deep dive into Carla's quest, maybe consider those moments where your own existing emotional connections, loyalty to one person, maybe resentment towards another, even just a sense of obligation might be subtly twisting how you perceive what seems like objective reality.
Yeah, how do those little gray cells of your own, colored by your personal history, influence the facts you choose to see or the way you recall them later?
And maybe think about this. Consider the unspoken debts, the unacknowledged desires, the hidden resentments that might be driving behavior in the people around you, or perhaps even in yourself. What hidden truths might be lurking just under the surface, in plain sight even, just waiting for a shift in perspective to be fully revealed?